also, just touching on that, the risks and opportunities, are you able to get into more details in as far as where insurers can take a look at, be aware of, take cautious of, but also take advantage of opportunities that are in front of them, looking at the African landscape?
Well, wherever you are, take a look around the room and think to yourself, what in this room did not start as either farming or mining? And if we look at that in that light at the African continent, we see that for a large part of the continent, there is no mining at scale and no proper farming at scale. And that is because there are 600 million people in Africa without electricity. When Portugal and Spain had a meltdown for a day, it was a nightmare for them.
Yeah.
In Africa, it was just one day for 600 million people. And so when you look at it in that way, the major focus in Africa should be, how do we provide the cheapest electricity for all of Africa to industrialize, create jobs, and farm at scale? And if we want to make the most of Africa's potential, we cannot ignore that necessity.
I want to also touch on some trade tariffs and global policy shocks that we've witnessed quite recently, Francois. I mean, we've seen a resurgence in trade tensions and tariff regimes. What are the implications of these shifts on African imports, exports, but also this by extension and reinsurance markets?
If you think about tariffs only in terms of trade, it's a big mistake. Because tariffs are now part of the toolkit for geopolitical statecraft. No longer is tariff seen as a purely economic tool. It is now seen as part of a package of tools. And when the US says we want reciprocal trade, they don't only mean tariffs. The US wants a shift in attitude towards China. They want a different attitude to Iran. They want more action on making the continent safer against jihadism and extremism. They want to disrupt the flow of terrorist money. And if the insurance industry doesn't see that, it's going to miss the entire movie that plays in Africa.
Right.
And so therefore, we really have to look very carefully at what it means when you start talking about reciprocal trade.
When we look at, though, just tariff-driven inflation, how should insurance be thinking about this in the context of its impact on the pricing model, claim costs, but also their product design?
I'm not an economist, so I'm not even going to venture into the role of tariffs in inflation, because inflation has many causes, as we know.
Yeah.
But I think when you start looking at how to apply capital in Africa, you have to take into account rule of law, because the safety of your money is not only at the whim of the market, it's also at the whim of crime, for instance. And how you price crime and the effects of crime into the future is going to be pivotal in the African economy.
That's right. Francois, with that being said, are there any strategic moves you believe that African insurers must consider for future-proofing their businesses against any sustained global headwinds?
One of the most important things African insurers can do is to start focusing on energy, but not on the most expensive energy, not on the debt that has to be created to install renewable energy that is not baseload. Because there is no industrial country in the world that built their economy on renewable energy. They all built their economy on baseload. And when you look at South Africa's growth as an industrialized country, the most industrialized in Africa, it happened because we had the cheapest electricity.
Yeah.
And therefore we need to find and focus on the cheapest possible electricity supply for Africa. And once that happens, everything else can follow in the economy.
Right. you.